Hi, my name is Becca Newkirk. I am an LCSW and I specialize in working with complex trauma with teenagers and adults. And today I wanted to talk about something relating to attachment styles. Dun dun dun, fun times. Many of the clients that I work with have anxious attachment styles. We can certainly talk more at length about how I know that, what it looks like, what creates it, etc., etc. But suffice it to say today that anxious attachment styles are created by inconsistent caregiving. So when you're little bitty and you sometimes get cold, like distant horribleness from parents, and sometimes get like warm, loving attention from parents, what that creates is an anxious attachment style in the child. And then they grow up and they sort of like exist inside of this anxious attachment style in other relationships. Now it's very complicated, it's very nuanced. Nobody really like sits on just like cleanly in one pocket, right? So someone can have an anxious attachment style as it relates to like romantic relationships, but not friendships. They can have an anxious attachment style with friendships, but not romantic relationships. And similarly, they can be like, I'm a little bit borderline. Like sometimes I am a little bit more in the secure arena, and like other times I can veer into anxious. But for any of us who like sometimes veer into the anxious attachment direction, it can be a really painful experience. And one of the ways that we know that this is happening is we worry that people are mad at us a lot. Does that sound familiar? If you worry, like if you have a positive interaction with somebody or even a neutral interaction with somebody, and then you hang up the phone or you leave the hangout or you like end the date or whatever, and you don't hear anything like affirming from them in like, I don't know, sometimes a couple hours, maybe a day, it's the experience and the memory of the experience can start to almost like degrade in your mind. And you'll start feeling, most people experience it, I experience it in my chest, I think most people do, where it just kind of feels like an implosion. Like it just sort of feels like your chest, your throat, your sternum is like sort of collapsing in on itself. And it aches, right? It really hurts. And we get into this space where it's like, I will do anything to feel not this. I will do pretty much whatever as long as I can feel this, like I'm not in trouble, they're not mad at me. I want this to feel relieved. Now the problem is that it becomes kind of compulsive, and I call it the black hole sensation. Like that's what I talk about it, because it eats everything. It wants you to like throw reassurances into it. It's like, tell me I'm pretty, tell me I'm good enough, tell me you love me. And it eats it. It feels good for like 5 seconds. And then it just sort of like needs more. And the more you feed it, the bigger it gets, and then the worse, etc., etc. And what's really like, I think damaging, beyond it just being super uncomfortable and like unpleasant to experience this, we can take it a step further. It's really damaging to relationships. Because in the very beginning, if you're like honeymoon stagey in the relationship, it can be, oh, of course, honey, like I adore you, you're so wonderful, and they'll be willing to give those reassurances when you reach out for them. But over time, that's going to start to feel like, do you just like not trust me or something? Like, do you need me to do something that I'm not doing? And it starts turning into this back and forth of like, no, I just feel like I just feel like you're mad. I just wasn't, you like looked at me weird. Your like eyebrow cocked a little bit. Your tone of voice was like a little bit lower than it sometimes is. You didn't touch me as much, right? Because if you have an anxious attachment style, then you are highly attuned to people's body language, their intonation, the words they're using, the vibes you're getting, right? Like, and sometimes you can't even explain it to the other person. You might just recognize like, I don't know, vibes felt off. I didn't like it, right? And so now I'm going back to that other person because I don't know what else to do. And I feel like I'm dying because I've got this like black hole sensation thing going on, and it's terrible, right? So I want to talk to you today about a couple things that I want you to do and a couple things that I want you to not do with regard to this black hole sensation. So the first thing that I want you to do, we are working on recognizing it for what it is. We want to recognize that it's happening when it's happening. That by itself is going to be really hard. I need you to pay attention to how it's showing up in your body. We just need to notice that it's happening. The second thing, do not, I repeat, do not reach out to your person for reassurance. Reassurance is just going to feed your black hole. It is going to make it worse, it is going to make it bigger, and it is going to, then you're gonna need more and more from them, and eventually that's gonna cause damage. So we don't wanna do that. What we do want to do is actually start taking care of ourselves, right? We wanna start soothing that part of ourselves. And that is very, very difficult. So I'm going to start by saying, like, if you've got a therapist, this is a great thing to work with your therapist on. This is very hard to do by yourself, but I'm going to talk to you about what ideally it could look like. And this is not therapy, by the way. This is just me talking to a void. And you are hopefully listening, and hopefully it is helpful, but this is not therapy. So if you need it, you should get that kind of support. I digress. So we want to be able to take care of ourselves. The first thing that we do is we acknowledge that it hurts, and we give ourselves permission for it to hurt, right? I know that sounds really counterintuitive. What we want to do is we want to fix it. We want to soothe it, right? Like, give me a quick fix, give me a pill, our society, right? But also when you're that uncomfortable, just anything that's going to make it go away is what you want to do. The problem is that it doesn't actually fix it. It just causes more problems. So just, sit with me for a minute, and like when you feed it next time and you do the thing to try and soothe it, and then you notice that it came back and it came back with a vengeance, just hear my little voice in the back of your head, like, it didn't really fix it. It's uncomfortable anyway, right? So allow it to be uncomfortable. Give permission for it to be really painful. And the next thing that we often do is we dismiss and we minimize. What's wrong with me? Like, this is ridiculous. I don't know why I'm acting like this. I don't know why I have these big feelings about this little thing. Because often it's something really small and like hard to even pinpoint that set it off. Remember, we were talking about tone of voice or body language or cocked an eyebrow or like, wasn't like looking at me full on or whatever. So often, it's like, oh God, like, I don't know what my problem is. Like, he didn't even do anything. She didn't even do anything. Like, I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I'm going to sound crazy if I try to bring this to them, right? So I don't want you to dismiss it. We're acknowledging it, giving it permission to be hard, to be uncomfortable. And then the next thing that we're doing is acknowledging this is a trauma response, right? This is coming from anxious attachment bullshit from when we were little. So you're not actually just responding to this one time, this one instance. You're responding to a pattern of experiences and relationships that have been painful, where you've experienced yourself as getting abandoned or left or told that you're not good enough or criticized, et cetera, right? So like what we're really talking about is like all of a sudden you got transported back to when you were itty bitty, and things felt really big and scary and out of control, and you felt like you couldn't take care of yourself because when you were 5, you couldn't. You did actually need those other humans to like help take care of you. You are no longer 5. You now can take care of yourself and don't need these other people, although it does feel like you do. And I'm not saying that we do not need other humans. We are social animals. I will talk more about that in another moment, I am sure. So we're acknowledging that the thing is happening. We are giving permission for it to be uncomfortable and painful. And then we are not dismissing it, but rather normalizing and understanding. I get it. I get where this is coming from. I understand why this is painful. And where we go from there is we try to like treat it like the emotional flu. Now I say this a lot, and I actually really love this analogy because when you have the flu, if you feel vomity, you're probably gonna rest. You might watch like a movie, like a familiar comfort movie or whatever. You might have some like chicken soup by you, even if you can't like really eat it. And all of those things help. None of those things are gonna make you not nauseous. None of those things are gonna make you not sick or not have the flu. But it's still a hell of a lot better than pretending everything is fine, going to work like normal, trying to, engage, go to do your workout class or whatever, even though you have the flu, you're gonna vomit on the floor like this. That is a terrible idea. And you're gonna get sicker probably because you're wearing yourself out. You're certainly not gonna heal on any kind of like schedule. So when we have the flu, we understand inherently that we're supposed to, most of us, unless that's your trauma, but like most of us understand inherently, like, I'm going to rest. I'm going to do more self-soothing and self-care behaviors. I'm going to be gentle with myself. And I'm also going to have the expectation that this just is going to be uncomfortable for a while. We're doing both, right? I think a lot of the time with emotional pain, we have been sold this idea that you're supposed to do the self-care thing, like meditate or draw, listen to music, go on a walk. And all of those things are great. But we've been sold this idea that like meditating or going on a walk is going to be sort of an immediate fix, an immediate relief. It's not. It really isn't. Whatever experience it is that you're having is still going to be there. It's just that you're taking care of yourself and you're loving yourself through it. That's a totally different experience than banging your head against a wall, trying to pretend like everything is fine and not giving yourself the space to feel the things that you're feeling, right? It's also different for those of you who are like, oh no, but I don't want to wallow. It's also really different from sitting in your feelings and wallowing or making it worse or throwing a pity party. There's a time and a place for that. I think that it is okay to decide for short periods of time, like, this is awful, I feel like giving up, I'm going to give up for tonight and I'm gonna like stand back up tomorrow. There's a time and a place for that, but that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is accepting what already is. I have the black hole sensation. I feel really not okay. I feel like I need reassurance from this other human in this moment, and I can't get it. I don't have it, right? And so instead of that, I'm going to give myself permission to have the feelings. I'm going to recognize where the feelings are coming from. I'm going to not dismiss or invalidate them. And I'm going to shift into self-care. And I'm going to take care of myself without the expectation that it's going to immediately solve the problem or solve how I feel, right? And what ends up happening is you start coming back closer to baseline faster, right? So like the chicken soup is not going to heal the flu, but it sure is going to help you feel less flu-y much faster than going to the gym. So similarly, the Disney movie, the hot chocolate, the music, the whatever self-soothe, taking care of yourself thing that you're doing, it's not going to make you feel not vulnerable and eviscerated and like you're collapsing in your chest. It's just going to help you feel less that way more quickly. And ultimately, like, that's kind of the goal, right? Then when you are in a more grounded space, when you feel like more of yourself or you have more of your adultness accessible, then you get to start, reaching out to your person, whoever it was that you needed the reassurance from. And you can be open with them about like, wow, that was really hard for me. I had stuff come up, it really felt like, we weren't maybe in a great space. If you want to, you can bring that to them. I'm not about that life of like trying to tell people to like hide things from their people. Like, that's not helpful and that's not better. I'm just talking about what energy are you bringing to the person that you're talking to. Are you coming from like a child energy, like a collapsy black hole energy, where you're going to just take and take and take from them, not feel any better, and frustrate the hell out of them? That's not going to work, right? That's going to make things worse. Or are you coming to them from this space of like, I've held this in myself. I've cared for myself through this. It maybe isn't all the way healed, but it's like enough of the way healed that I can take care of, that I can talk about it without acting it out at you, right? That's the difference. And that makes a huge difference in terms of like being able to collaborate with your person about how to deal with situations like that moving forward, right? Like, or how they can assist you or facilitate like you not having that experience as intensely, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we're talking about those of us, and many of us do, who have complex trauma, those of us who have anxious attachment or like, sometimes kind of hang out in that anxious attachment space, it can be very painful. This is one way to think about it. So this is a way that I'm inviting you to try on, see how it does or does not make sense to you, and see if you can interact with it this way. Black hole sensation. This is my indication that I am in like a trauma activated state. That anxious attachment bullshit got poked. And so I need to be thoughtful about how I'm going to proceed, right? I'm gonna feel urgency and compulsion to like, I need to fix this, I need the reassurance, and I need it yesterday. But we're gonna try, we're not always gonna succeed, but we're gonna try not to immediately act out that, right? Because it's gonna make things worse. We're at least recognizing if we act it out and it makes things worse, like, oh yeah, that did make it worse, didn't it? We're gonna try not to do that, and instead we're gonna try and come back into the space where we acknowledge that it feels bad, give permission. This is a lot bigger than this one instance, and it makes sense that I have this pain, and it's okay. And then we are going to take care of ourselves without the expectation that it's going to immediately solve the pain point. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that made sense. Please leave me any thoughts or questions in the comments. I am happy to read them. And we'll talk soon. Bye.